press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello children, our discussion going on is biomolecules. So last time in our discussion we have reached the alpha helical structure. We have reached the discussion of primary structures of proteins. So just a bit of recap which will be needed for that. So what did we mention is that primary structure of protein, is composed of amide linkages. And what is amide linkage? We have C double bond O NH link. In a protein structure, when a primary structure of protein is developed, we have a proper N end, N terminus, or N, we have N terminus, or this is N amino residue, and then you have C terminus, that's a part of carboxylic acid. C terminus, or C terminus residue. C terminus residue. Yes, children? Then we reach the conclusion also these proteins are also called as polyamides because of many peptide linkages existing, many amide linkages existing. One more conclusion that we reached was around an amide linkage, there is no free rotation on amide linkage. What was the reason I told you? The reason I told you that the CN bond present in the amide linkage has some double bond character, and that double bond character is existing due to resonance. And how do we explain the resonance here? We have a lone pair of electron, it can commit, it can go out. The other resonating structure that we have is CO minus, then you have a double bond here, nitrogen plus and hydrogen respectively. And you can see that there are rules in resonating structures also, and one of the rule in resonating structures is that whenever the atoms which are engaging in the resonating structures, if the plus and minus charges are coming close to each other, that is the stabilizing structure. The most stabilizing structure in the resonating structure will be the one with the most covalent bonds. We know that. I said many times, children, that when you are looking into biomolecules, when you look in the chemistry of biomolecules, it's very essential to understand their basic scaffold. You need to understand their basic patterns, their basic arrangements, how exactly bonds are oriented. And one more thing that we learned about this amide linkage, there was the configuration is trans. We have learned it out, right? That means the carbonyl carbons and the nitrogen H atoms, they are oriented in opposite directions to each other. And I have discussed with respect to this as well, that nitrogen will be attached to C alpha and carbon will also be attached to what? C alpha from other side. There is a free rotation possible around NC alpha bond called as phi and C alpha C. This is NH, C alpha, this is carboxylic and this is called as psi. Free rotations are possible around this, and molecule can take different number of conformations with respect to the rotations available around what? NC alpha and C alpha C respectively. There is no rotation available around this. There is a restricted rotation around this bond. We have made it clear in the primary structure. So final conclusion was that primary structure of a protein only contains what? Peptide bonds. That was the conclusion that we reached. Primary structure of a protein contains only peptide bonds. Today our discussion will focus around the secondary structure of proteins, children. How exactly secondary, tertiary and quaternary structures of proteins are obtained. What exactly are the arrangements? How exactly it comes into play. There are, in the cellular system, there are numerous reasons and many cataloging factors which add up and they make a particular polypeptide chain which has been synthesized just by ribosome machinery to take a shape. Remember a basic rule with respect to protein shape. We are talking about a three-dimensional shape. So remember, basic rule is that the three-dimensional structure in which maximum forces are operative is the most stable structure. Is the most stable structure. I will explain this statement what it means. As we know with respect to the rotations around amide linkages, between C alpha, there is a free rotation available, and there is N and C alpha rotations are also available. I have told you a while earlier. Rotations are possible around what? N, then C alpha, and C alpha C. Rotations are possible. Clear? Now looking on the secondary structure, first of all, let me clear. So now our discussion is secondary structure of proteins. Secondary structure of proteins. Let me tell you, the most important bond which maintains the secondary structure of protein is hydrogen bonding. So beside is amide linkage, because in order to develop secondary structure, the imperative thing is that first there should be peptide bonds existing. So there should be a basic scaffold existing, and that scaffold can only fold. The scaffold, which is the basic elemental form for us, that can only fold with different interactions and result in the development of the higher structures of protein, which are actually functional structures of protein. Now, when you look on the secondary structure of protein, I will first of all draw the basic structure, that is which linkage? Which linkage? Peptide linkage. So we'll write down. As I mentioned, there is a C and an NN terminus, these are existing, yes or no? We'll mention down. So we suppose we'll write down C and first or N end, we'll mention down C end in the present case, or we mention out C. Then you have bond is continuing on with from this C. Now this C alpha attached to R, then it is attached to H. From this carbon, there is a nitrogen coming out. Oh, yes or no? C alpha, C has come already. Or to be precise, you mentioned this one as N, NH. This is N terminus part, right? C alpha, R, what you got here? C, correct? Double bond O. Then you will have NH, yes or no? Then again, you will get C alpha. So this is one amino acid completed. Now, the second amino acid starts NH, C alpha, C, double bond O. With this C, R and R should be at opposite positions for the maximum stability of the molecule. This is C, then you got here N and H. In the transposition you see C double bond O of one amino acid residue and C double bond O of other amino acid residue. That means of other amino acid at the peptide linkage are in opposite positions. Keep this thing in mind. Again you got C alpha, then you have R here and you got H here. Yes, then you can continue it out. What will be the group next? Be C double bond O, then you will have N, H, so on and so forth. Chain will continue. Now you can see that it is C double bond O group and this is NH group. So if you have C double bond O and NH groups present in a molecule, there are great chances that, see, this nitrogen and oxygen are two electronegative atoms. They can be bridged by hydrogen. This is what hydrogen bond is. There are three atoms making the hydrogen bond. You have nitrogen, you have oxygen, and you have fluorine. So we have nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. They can make hydrogen bond. So you got NHCO. They can undergo hydrogen bonding. Remember, when you say a hydrogen bond, when you represent a hydrogen bond, it is represented in biochemical structures by three dotted lines. If you show multiple dotted lines, this means a partial bond. Half bond, like you might have seen in SN2 mechanism of alkyl halides. There are three hydrogens attached and one leaving group and one attacking group are both attached at the same time, giving you the intermediate. That intermediate is highly unstable and the total number of bonds made by carbon are technically 4, with 3 hydrogens and partial bond with the incoming group and partial bond with the outgoing. So those are half bonds. They are shown by multiple dashed lines. So there is a chance of hydrogen bonding. When secondary structures of proteins are made, everyone should understand it well. When the secondary structures of proteins are made, what does happen is that amino acids which are on an average 3.6 amino acids away undergo intra-chain hydrogen bonding. So in this particular polypeptide, within this polypeptide chain, I have said last time that on the base of the structure there are two different types of proteins, fibrous and globular. Fibrous proteins are like silk, keratin, myosin, collagen. They are the structural features of different regions like tendons, ligaments, and different parts in skin as well, making the cytoskeleton of it. Yes, so they are structural nature, and having their structural function, they need to be extremely hard and high. They need to have high tensile strengths. Clear? Looking on this, in a particular, when polypeptide chain is converted to secondary structure, amino acids undergo hydrogen bonding, and hydrogen bonding occurs between C double bond O of one amino acid with NH of, I will write this amino acid 1, this is amino acid 2, which is almost 4 amino acids away. How many amino acids away? 4 amino acids. Generally, on an average, when the crystallographic analysis is done, on an average it is coming 3.6 amino acids away. So hydrogen bonding will come into play within the chain in between the amino acids, which are 3.6 amino acids away from each other. Am I clear with this thought here? Right. Now, they are 3.6 amino acids away from each other. As a result of that, what will happen? One is that hydrogen bonding will come into play. Say this is C double bond O. Let us suppose this amino acid, actually it's only one amino acid away. Let us suppose this amino acid is, example, 4 amino acids away. Let us suppose, if this is 4 amino acids away, what will happen? When the hydrogen bonding will occur, it will develop a link between this oxygen and this NH group, right or not? As a result of that, there will be a kink or a bend developed in the primary chain. That helical structure which is obtained by the hydrogen bonding between carbonyl carbon of one amide linkage with NH of other amide linkage, which are on an average 3.6 amino acids away, or we can say 4 amino acids away, results in the formation of the first functional secondary structure of a protein called as alpha helical structure. So alpha helical structure, besides containing peptide bonds, also contains hydrogen bonds, and practically every amide linkage has a tendency to undergo hydrogen bonding. So if this makes it 4 places away, this can make with a carbonyl carbon 4 places away, even this can make with 4 places away, that can make with 4, so on and so forth. So by this, what's happening? A linear polypeptide chain, which was in its primary structure a while earlier, now due to these kinks developed, as I mentioned, that alpha helical structure, because it contains C alpha itself, right? This is also called as alpha helical structure, also mentioned in terms of what? 3.613. That means 3.6 places away, or we can write it alpha 3.6 also. So 3.613, what exactly does it represent? It represents that the hydrogen bonding comes into play for 3.6 amino acids away, and the total members participating there in the ring are how many? 13. So we can write down it also as alpha 13, clear or not? Total members participating in the ring are how many? 13, right? On the whole, 4 amino acids. Total members participating will be 13. So 3.6, in the way that hydrogen bonding is done at what displacement? At what position? 3.6 amino acids away. So you can write down it alpha 3.6 as well, or alpha 13 respectively. 3.6, 13. 3.6 means the hydrogen bonding is made between the two molecules which are 3.6 amino acids away, and the total members participating in that hydrogen bonding are on the whole, not hydrogen bond is not made by 13 elements. On the whole, including the amino acids in between, whatever the members are participating, they are on the whole how many? 13. Am I clear? Or you can have a look on this. Suppose 4 here, 4 here. But the members which are participating in the ring after the dehydration process and other things that have come into play is, so 13.6 or 13 members will be making the ring itself from amino acid 1, which is 3.6 amino acids away from it. Clear or not? Right. So by this folding, we will get the secondary structure of protein and how it would look like. Remember that alpha helical structure is right-handed helix. I will show you the diagrammatic analysis of it, children. So in secondary structure, remind yourself, besides having peptide bonds, what is the link additionally available? Yes, hydrogen bonds. So can I show it like this? I will show this primary structure now like a linear chain. Example I am talking about. So I will show this in the form of a linear chain now. This is which structure of a protein? This is primary structure. In this we will have what group? So there will be always what end? There will be always a N end, and there will always be what end? C end. What we call N terminus and C terminus. So it will be NH, so it will continue on. Let us suppose this is C alpha here. C alpha, then what will have? C, double bond O, then here NH. So you got C alpha, I am not showing R, I am not showing H here. C alpha, then you got C, double bond O, and NH. Very good. Again, you got C alpha, you got C, double bond O, and NH. Again, you got C alpha, C, double bond O, and NH. You continue on at the end. What will remain there? C. Say children, These amino acids, consider these amino acids as I mentioned down, you keep coming down. These amino acids are, how many amino acids away? Example I said. So suppose these are 4 amino acids away. So here, suppose these are 4 amino acids away. So technically, everywhere you have the tendency of the hydrogen bonding that can come into play. So what will it do? It will create bend in this structure. So how the structure would look like then for us? That's how the structure would look like for us. Right. Now here what is coming out? Say here C double bond O, right? From, say this is 4 places away. What is coming out? NH. Now again here will be, say at this position you will have NH coming out. At this position you have C double bond O coming out. So at different positions you will have, suppose the double bond O, then you will have NH, so on and so forth. Besides that, children, in this main scaffold, on that C alpha, there will be R and there will be H. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. There will be R, there will be H. So many places there will be R, then there will be H. So many places R and H will be existing as well. So what will happen by it is, so let me not show R and H here because I am discussing secondary structure for explanation purposes. So technically, every atom is able to what? So this will be a hydrogen bond. It is beneath it. This will be hydrogen bond. There will be hydrogen bonding. There will be hydrogen bonding. So there will be hydrogen bonding at multiple places respectively. So what you got here is the secondary structure of protein, and this is right-handed helix. So if you keep your thumb up and these fingers, you can consider these fingers to be the helix coming down, like it's like this, upwards, go downwards. With the direction of fingers, this helix will be moving downwards. Correct or not? So this is called as alpha helical structure. What are the features of this alpha helical structure? What? So 3.6 amino acids away hydrogen bonding comes into play. In keratin, in silk fibrin, there are the secondary structures that are working. So I am not saying there are alpha helical structures only. There are secondary structures working which are working as the structural features, and you have the alpha helical structure working there as well. With this, there is one more secondary structure that's also available. We call those as beta pleated sheets. In this case, what happens is, and in this secondary, beta pleated sheets are also secondary structures. There are possible, I'll directly show now the chains, okay? So this is one chain, this is one more chain, this is one more chain. Keep it in mind, secondary structure. It is not necessary it will be made up of only one chain. So there will be many chains which can undergo interchain hydrogen bonding. So what is here? You got C double bond here. Look here. You got C double bond O. Then NH in opposite direction, right? Similar way, then C alpha. Then C double bond O. Then NH. From here also there will be C double bond O. Then there will be NH. There will be many C double bond O. NH groups coming out. So what can happen is these atoms can undergo what? Hydrogen bonding with each other. From where? Which end? So C double bond O from one end with NH of other, or so on and so forth. So these atoms can undergo what? Hydrogen bonding with each other. So I am not going to mention those. So that interchanged hydrogen bonding will come into play. So there will be different atoms participating in those hydrogen bonding. Or did you understand or not? If due to this hydrogen bonding, interchain hydrogen bonding, we are getting beta plated sheets. What do we get? Beta plated sheets. And if those beta plated sheets have got all their N ends in one direction and all their C ends in one direction, we call these as parallel beta plated sheets. And you can have anti-parallel also. Anti-parallel beta plated sheets. And what will be happening in anti-parallel beta plated sheets? In anti-parallel beta plated sheets, N and CN will be adjacent to each other on the two different chains. Correct or not? So there's the difference. When you have anti-parallel beta plated sheets, the hydrogen bonded atoms will come in a straight line with each other. Because if it is N, look here, N, have a look on this chain here carefully. So look here, there is an N end, this is N end and this is C end, right? Now if it is reverse of it, this is N end here. So what will happen is, children, where C double bond O is coming in, there NH will be coming in from the other chain. It is C end here. So due to that, when the hydrogen bonding will occur, all the atoms which are participating in that hydrogen bonding will come in a straight line to each other. And when they come in straight line to each other, the hydrogen bonding atoms, hydrogen bonding is more stronger because electronegative atoms will be able to impart more influence on a proton. Proton's exposure to the other electronegative atom will be more. So hydrogen bonding is stronger, like in anti-parallel. DNA strands, they are not parallel, because if you keep DNA strands parallel, what will happen is, from the sugar, the backbone, the base which is coming out is going out, suppose. If you keep it parallel like this, the other chain, if you look on that other chain also, the base from the sugar phosphate backbone will be going out. So only at certain stages, you will find out some atoms which have the tendency to hydrogen bond, and the directionality of that will be very away from each other. As a result of that, they will make hydrogen bond, but hydrogen bond will be on the weaker. It is like this, hydrogen bonding between the two atoms. Hydrogen is here, hydrogen bond between the two atoms. If it is anti-parallel, what's happening? So from one sugar phosphate backbone, if the base is going out, from the other, if it is anti-parallel, it's coming in. Same thing will happen in this case. So hydrogen bonded atoms will participate very closely in anti-parallel positions. As a result of that, anti-parallel beta plated sheets are more stable and more strength providing compared to parallel beta plated sheets. Am I clear? So secondary structure can have two different structural parts in it. What are they? Alpha helical structures and beta plated sheets. So in all these cases, the only thing that's available is, besides having amide linkage, so you have amide linkage here, what are the additional bonds that are present? You can see whether intra-chain or inter-chain. What are the additional bonds that are only available? You have the only additional bonds that available are hydrogen bonds. So keep it in mind. Secondary structures are made by what? Secondary structures are made by hydrogen bonds. So secondary structure is an alpha helical structure. So when you say secondary structure, it has to be hydrogen bond, because peptide linkage is already present there, which is maintaining the basic scaffold of it. Am I clear? Now you can understand it. Whatever the hydrogen bonded atoms are there, whichever can undergo hydrogen bonding, they are participating in hydrogen bonding within the chain or hydrogen bonding in between the chains. As a result of that, those atoms are not exposed to the water, to the aqueous medium or to the polar medium. So their solubility is less. This is why these structures are making usually the structural protein, which are called as fibrous protein, which I said in my definition last time also, that structural proteins, fibrous proteins are insoluble in water because of their structural functions. You can understand it by this pattern, why they are not able to hydrogen bond even if hydrogen bonded atoms are available there. One more important feature that they have is, this is again important. You understand the scenario here? Or clear or not? Good. Now one more important scenario you need to understand here is, because when you look on the chain, alpha helical structure, from that alpha carbon, you have the amide linkage, no doubt. So you have got, suppose, NH here, and you got C double bond over here, so on and so forth. From this carbon, there is hydrogen attached to alpha carbon, yes, and to this carbon there is R also. This R can be polar, or non-polar. Like we have mentioned, different types of amino acids are available. Suppose if this is acidic amino acid, then R suppose is glutamic acid, it will be CH2, CH2, COO. There will be a minus charge on it. Or right or not? There will be minus charge on it. From the other alpha amino acid, R group is there. It can be made up of, suppose amine group, that it will be CH2, CH2, example, NH2. This will be a basic amino acid, and in aqueous medium we know it will be present in the form of NH3 plus. So these R groups have got, these R groups which are on alpha carbon can be acidic, basic or neutral. If they are acidic and basic, keep it in mind, if they are acidic and basic and they are present in aqueous medium, naturally they will have some charges. Remember that in this protein chain, when the folding of secondary structure will occur, they will be hidden and they will not be exposed to the external environment, because outside in the cytoplasmic part or in that particular region around it, there will be aqueous medium and cells cannot be made devoid of water. Water will be always there. So they try to hide. So if you want to hide R groups, naturally this protein has to further fold. This protein has to further fold. And when proteins keep on folding, remember, usually the structural proteins do not have maximum of side chains which are polar because of their structural features. So this is naturally governed. This is already in the DNA. This is already an inherited message present within the systems that what exactly is the need in the body and how exactly it is to be synthesized in the body. You can see that this protein primary chain is coming from messenger RNA. It's actually coming from central dogma. It's actually coming from the phenomena of genetic aberration, genetic expressions. Right? So this is all written. These are all messages separated. They need to be decoded. And decoding of a particular message on mRNA is the formation of a protein. It's a response. Or are you getting it or not? It's a response actually to the stimuli. Good. Now, if you have acidic and basic groups, so we have positive and negative charges present on the side chains itself. Now see what will happen, children. Now this is the secondary structure I have shown here, right? Or yes or no? I'll just rub it off and I'll draw one more secondary structure with R groups. Now understand it, children? So this is our secondary structure. Correct or not? I will mention these in terms of hydrogen bonds. So far we have only maintained the secondary structure, like in alpha helical structures and other. And you know now where are these coming into play. Say now, children, from here there is a side chain coming. Say side chain is made up of NH3 plus. And this particular region has got, because it will be already coded, it will be made up of, say, COO minus. Even you can have an interaction like this. Pocket is there, R. Say there is CH3 and then here you have CH2, CH3. Now these two R groups, that is CH2, CH3, can interact with CH3 by what forces? Van der Waals forces. Because we know that van der Waals forces in any molecule are directly proportional to the molecular mass of a non-polar molecule, and the same van der Waals forces are directly proportional to surface area as well. So in this case, these can interact with each other by van der Waals force. So they can interact with van der Waals forces. It will strengthen the forces here and it will further help the chain to fold up. You understood this or not? This COO minus and NH3 plus, these will be in between NH3 plus and COO minus, there will be salt interactions. That is ionic interactions. So they can also further stabilize the structure. Besides that, different groups present as side chains can interact with each other by different forces. So what are all the other forces that are possible besides hydrogen bonding and peptide linkages? You can have, even if the link is like what? So you have like in cysteine, what is here? SH is the side chain. Then SH is the side chain. You can remove these two hydrogens. Then you can have disulfide linkage also. I'm not telling it will be present everywhere, but these are different forces that are possible. Disulfide linkage. So these additional forces, what are they? Van der Waals forces between the side chains which are non-polar. So why van der Waals forces will be between the chains which are non-polar. This disulfide linkage can come into play when cysteine amino acid will come side on with each other, means in the structure, in the secondary structure, if they are coming further close. I'm not telling you secondary structure like alpha helical structure, secondary structure is the final structure. Beta pleated sheets are the final structure. I am talking about other proteins. After they are taking the secondary structure, they don't stop there. Rather, they can further fold by these different types of interactions. What are they? Salt interactions, that ion-ion interactions, that van der Waals forces between non-polar groups. There can be disulfide linkages in addition to what bonding? Hydrogen bonding. All these forces will do what? All these forces will further help that particular polypeptide chain to fold more. And not only that, if this hole is present in the medium, what will our groups try to do? So if you have an exposed chain in the medium which contains water, it has side chain suppose CH3, side chain suppose C2H5, or it has a group like OH, it has a group like SH. So CH3 and C2H5 will try to go away from water because of hydrophobic interactions. So if they are trying to hide water, what will happen is, look on this chain. So this CH3 will go inwards, OH will be exposed, again C2H5. Pocket will be made up of C2H5 and exposure region will be OH, because OH can easily interact with water but C2H5 cannot. So what will it do? This linear chain will fold up in such a way that internal pockets will be polar and external regions will be, internal pockets will be non-polar and external region will be polar respectively. This is how interaction with the medium will come into play. This is what will govern hydrophobic interactions, will also govern the protein to take a particular shape. There are there are so many reasons that you can cite which help in the protein folding. So what did I mention? Then sir, if these many interactions are possible, what is the best possible shape the molecule can take? I said the best possible shape of the molecule that will be taken by it, in the present case is protein. The best shape will be the one in which all the interactions are maximum. And that is a basic rule how protein folding comes into play. That is how you can say the final structure, the final active site on a protein will be the one in which maximum smaller forces are operative. So once the folding will come into play, what will happen, children? This linear chain would have folded by different types of interactions. Don't draw it like this, you cannot. I am drawing it like tertiary structure. So this will be our tertiary structure of a protein. And what does quaternary structure mean? Quaternary structure means, children, if a protein is made up of, protein is like made up of many subunits. Like in hemoglobin, you have alpha 2, beta 2 subunits, right? And how do these interact? Alpha 2, beta 2 interact. These are different chains. They will interact with further forces, further interactions, and then lead to a cylindrical structure coming into, it's not a cylinder, actually it is made up of 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains, in which inside, on the inside, you will have the non-polar regions and outside exposed will be the polar regions. That is the same what is present in the membrane. Because most part of the membrane, if you look children, the internal part of a membrane is non-polar because it's made up of lipids. External it is polar. Here it is polar. So the integral membrane protein that spans through the membrane, it is external parts are polar and those parts which are just exposed to the lipids in the bilipid layer are non-polar, and depends upon what type of channel it is. Am I clear with the thought? So you need to understand this. You might have heard about co-transport, counter-transport, SIMP transport through membranes that occurs by different molecules. When absorption, after digestion, when the absorption has to be done, different cycles are working on the membranes which are taking. You have the cis phase of the cell and trans phase of the cell. Correct or not? Anyway, did you get it or not? So quaternary structure is the structure which, tertiary structure, secondary and secondary is the structural feature mostly, which is functional. And tertiary structures are usually taken up by the proteins which will be having good solubility in the medium itself. Means whose working is dependent upon the transportation through the medium, like hemoglobins, different hormones like insulins and many other thyroglobulins, thyroxine, so on and so forth. They need transportation through the medium, and for that they need to be polar. So they will take what shape? Globule. Those types of proteins are called as globular proteins. Like we have fibrous and globular proteins. Did you understand or not? So the tertiary structure that will be taken by the protein molecule will be the one in which there are maximum weak interactions existing. Besides having peptide linkage, it will have hydrogen bonds, ion-ion interactions, then there will be disulfide linkage, so on and so forth. So if needed, whatever the atoms are present which can engage in the interaction with each other, those interactions will come into play. And finally, we will have a tertiary structure which is actually the functional structure containing a particular active site specific for the reactive site of a substrate. Interactions with the substrate will be only on the basis of that active site, and that active site production comes into play from amino acids. So now a simple question is there, children. Is it like any amino acid can be making a pocket here? No. Only specific amino acid at a specific position will be interacting with each other and resulting in the formation of active site. Yes or no? So where it is dissipated by? It is dissipated by the message which is present in DNA itself. So it is the message from the DNA which is there, how and what type of active site it has to develop, because that active site should be specific for a particular reactive site. So there's a very intricate, there's a very delicate balance between the interaction of enzymes with its substrates respectively, and it is genetically governed. So you need to understand these things at the molecular event itself to understand it, children. So you can go with the further higher analysis of the protein foldings respectively. Did you understand the scenario clearly or not? So this secondary structure can convert to the tertiary structures, folding patterns, and how folding will occur, when the interactions will occur between different side chain groups with itself, ion-ion interactions, ion-ion interactions, van der Waals forces, disulfide linkage, hydrogen bonds, if there are some remaining parts. So tertiary structure, and quaternary structure, multiple subunits. Or simple, quaternary structure of a protein is when tertiary structure is made so that certain of the R groups have not still interacted. So quaternary structure will come into play, like in hemoglobin, alpha, beta groups can also interact and result in the quaternary structure formation. Am I clear? So on the basis of this, you might have now understood the structural features or structural differences or the differences between fibrous and globular proteins. So that is one more classification of proteins on the basis of functions, on the basis of structure to be precise. And isn't it true to say, children, now that it is actually the structure that governs the function? Yes, indeed, correct. Is my statement clear here? Did you understand it? Secondary and tertiary structures and quaternary structures. Understood clearly? Excellent. Good. Okay. Yes, let's revive it a bit. So, structural features of proteins, right? Okay, primary structure. Basic structure, which contains only peptide bonds. Okay. Stereochemistry of peptide bond. That's your homework. Already told you. Resonance will come into play. It is not a normal CN bond. There is a trans configuration around that peptide linkage. Reasons also told you why there is trans configuration with respect to that peptide linkage. Then, secondary structure. Secondary structure. Besides having peptide linkages, hydrogen bonds also present. There are two important structures, alpha helix and beta pleated sheets. Alpha helical structure is alpha 3.6, you can say, because a term is made up of how many? 3.6 amino acids. Why? Because at the distance of 3.6 amino acids, there is a hydrogen bonding developed. And the total members participating in that helix is how many? 13. Clear or not? And then beta pleated sheets, there are two of this, parallel and anti-parallel. These are called as parallel beta pleated sheets, and these are anti-parallel. What are parallel beta pleated sheets? When you lay the chains side on with each other, hydrogen bonding can come into play, so that each end is coinciding. N and coincides and C and coincides. So N and N are on the same side in the same direction and C in the same direction. Anti-parallel will mean, suppose N, C, N, C. So hydrogen bonding can come into play more precisely. Anti-parallel is more stable than parallel beta pleated sheets. This is with respect to secondary structure. Then what about tertiary structure? So besides having what? Peptide linkage, hydrogen bonds. What are the additional forces you have? You have ion-ion interactions, right? You have disulfide linkages. Then you have van der Waals forces. So in van der Waals forces, all the interactions will come into play. And then quaternary structure is that when a particular molecule, particular protein or an enzyme is made up of multiple subunits, they can further undergo interactions and result in the formation of more complicated shapes. Like in hemoglobin, we have hemoglobin has got iron molecule in the middle, right? And remember children, there is a globin part, protein part. Remember, in that protein part, the side chain histidine, the side chain of histidine, understand it, has got a ring structure which has got nitrogen in it. This nitrogen will be donating electrons to iron. Got it? So, heme in the middle, iron in the middle. Then there are four porphyrin rings from 4 different subunits which has got nitrogen, 4 porphyrin rings which has got nitrogen, and this nitrogen is making a coordination system with iron. So those nitrogens are donating the electrons to iron. That's why we say hemoglobin is a coordination entity in which the side chains of a protein molecule and that amino acid on that protein chain, globin chain, is which one? Nitrogen. So histidine, which has got nitrogen on it. that nitrogen will be donating out the electrons to the d orbitals of iron. In which state? Ferrous. So Fe plus 2, so it converts from Fe plus 2 to plus 1. So then loading of oxygen can also occur, and oxygen will also be able to interact with iron by that coordinate bond only. So now here the stereochemistry is different. If carbonyl carbon attaches, we know now, oxygen is a weak ligand, right? So interaction with the iron will be weaker, understand it. Because interaction with the iron is weaker, when this hemoglobin reaches at the region which is deficient in oxygen, so due to the oxygen pressure difference present at the two ends, this hemoglobin at that particular region at the tissue level can easily release of what? Oxygen. However, when it comes to carbon monoxide, we have already discussed it. Carbon monoxide, when it is attached to iron, it's like a carbonyl carbon. It's not exhibiting the property like that, but it's like carbonyl carbon only. So attachment of carbonyl carbon to, attachment of CO to the iron will be a sigma pi type of complex, because CO will have antibonding orbitals free, where back donation can come into play. Get back in the coordination chemistry, there we have discussed it very well. And that carbon monoxide will be attached to iron extremely hard. As a result of that, when oxygen has to bind to it, if it is already under high concentration of carbon monoxide, releasing of that from the iron becomes difficult. The suffocation, hypoxia or anoxia conditions can come into play, but it can be fatal for a particular individual. So there are so many biological perspectives of this, but this being a chemistry class, we cannot discuss all those details over here. Am I clear, children? Am I clear? This is all about chemistry. See, in biological sciences or biology, you cannot discuss anything except chemistry. It's all chemical events. You talk about anything, anatomy or physiology, it's all chemical analysis itself. So you need to understand this science in terms of it is chemical events. Actually, the science, biology should be understood as the chemical events only. But that much of time is usually not available most of the times. Correct or not? Did you understand or not? Am I clear with the thought here? With respect to the structural analysis of proteins to secondary, tertiary structures. So rewinding it up, we discussed amino acids, different types of amino acids. What are the different configurations of an amino acid respectively? All the amino acids are in which configuration? S, except serine, which is in? Except serine, which is in which configuration? Serine or cysteine? Except cysteine, which is in which configuration? R. Yes. And how do we discuss L and D? On the basis of the basic amino acid, on the basis of a reference amino acid called as serine. So on the basis of that, it has CH2OH group as a side chain, like that of glyceraldehyde. Now we have to see whether NH2 is on the right or on the left. Most of the naturally occurring amino acids are in which configuration? L configuration, right or not, so on and so forth. So this is a this is a discussion with respect to, yes, proteins. Clear or not? Fine, children. Thank you.